Wondering what's next in your business or personal life? Welcome to Success to Significance, Life After Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, a podcast dedicated to helping you with all of life's challenges, discoveries, and opportunities. Whether you're seeking a new career, retirement, or simply wanting to make an impact in your community or the world. Join Jen Duplessis and her guests as they explore how to start, what to do when you're in the thick of a change or growth, and how to leave a mark in this world after breaking through your next achievement. You are moments away from the aha you've been seeking.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this episode of Success to Significance. Today, my guest is Sara Davison, and I had the wonderful privilege of meeting her when we were both speaking at the Best You Expo in LA earlier this year. And I was just so impressed with her, and we just became great friends right away. It's like, how do we meet? How do we go to, figure out a way that we can work together? And, so I want to introduce her to the show. Welcome to the show. We're happy to have you here, Sara.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you here too. So we've talked for almost 45 minutes, no, half an hour just on in the green room on just catching up with one another. It's so great. At the time of this recording, this evening or tomorrow morning, Prince, well, I keep saying Prince Charles, but King Charles is going to be coronated, and we were talking about all of that as coronation was happening. But one of the thing that we're going to talk about today is that Sara is known as the divorce coach, and she's a multi-award-winning coach, twice best-selling author, and she's the podcast host of Heartbreak to Happiness. I love that. She's also a global media commentator for TV and radio on breakups, divorce, and life empowerment. And this is what I really love about what you're doing, because you and I were talking in the green room that, I've never been divorced. I've been happily married for 40 years, but I'm really sensitive to people who've been through divorce from a perspective of a mortgage lender when I was in the mortgage business, knowing that 50% of people that I'm talking to have been through a divorce, and trying to be, sensitive. And gosh, there were times where I was doing the refinance for someone to take the house over and the purchase for someone else, and I can't commingle and talk to people, well, what is he buying and why is she this? And, it was just really difficult because I had a certification as a certified divorce lending professional. So I certainly get that aspect of it. And it's heart-centered for me, but most of it was financial for me. So I want to talk to you about your journey. How did you get into this? How did you decide that, I need to help people that are going through breakups? And I know this goes beyond just divorce, but it's divorce, but we're going to talk about all the things you do. But give us a little insight into your journey of breaking through your glass ceiling to get to where you are today.
Yeah, I love that breaking through glass ceiling concept, because it's so true. And I think when I started out on this, I had no dreams of becoming a divorce coach. It didn't even exist when I was at school as a career, but I went through a really tough divorce. I didn't see it coming. And at that point, I'd been coaching for 15 years. So I thought, gosh, if I'm struggling, and I was doing a lot of that ugly crying on the bathroom floor, you know what I mean? Like that real sobbing and panic. I didn't see it coming. And I found out overnight that not only did my husband not want to be married to me, but he'd met somebody else. And she was 12 years younger than me, stunningly beautiful, which, by the way, never helps. And she was also pregnant.
Oh.
So very, very hard to get your head around. We had a global coaching business together. So we had an office in London and an office in Sydney, Australia. We had nearly 200 staff, and my son was one at the time. We'd only been married about 3 years, so it was a complete shock. I knew there were issues with our marriage, but for me, marriage was forever. We would work through it. We could overcome those things, and a lot of the time it was good, and it worked really well. So overnight, I discovered that my future was just not as I had envisaged it, as I planned it, and I had to really rethink my entire life. And one of the things I realized was there was no help for people going through that kind of heartbreak. There was a little bit of support. You go to therapy or counseling, but nothing specific, such as, how to cope when your husband has an affair, or what to do when they're having a baby with somebody else, or how to work with someone who your husband is in a relationship with, because that happened too. They also moved into the penthouse apartment where I was living with me and my son in the same apartment block. So I had to deal with a lot of stress. And then we went into a big divorce process, and it was really difficult. Even if one of you wants to have an amicable divorce, the other one is hell-bent on not sharing information or it being complicated and difficult, then you get dragged into that system. So I decided at one point, the crying got too much, the pain was unbearable. I decided, look, I've got a choice. I either step up and do something about this and turn this into something that can get me through and my son through, and create some tools by combining my coaching skills with the divorce process, or this is going to destroy me. So I decided to create some tools, and that's what I put together. It became my first book, which was a bestseller, and then it kind of took off from there. And I realized that these tools can really help lots of people, not just me. So that's what I do now. I share them with people all over the world.
Yeah, I love that. And so going back just a little bit, so you all were coaching. What were you coaching on before this, so that you could apply your coaching skills?
Yeah, so I've been a life coach. I was very fortunate. When I left university, I set up my first business, which was to fly motivational speakers from your country, from the States, over to the UK, because you guys are always like 5-10 years ahead of us on self-help, personal development. So I was fascinated. I went on an Anthony Robbins course, which is, to start with Tony, it was incredible. I learned a lot and got really into the self-help world. And then I started working with some of Tony's speakers. I would fly them over to the UK and put on events. I then worked with some speakers like Paul McKenna, who is, into hypnotherapy. He's an incredible guy, written loads of books, a British speaker. And then trained with them all. So I got into NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and really it took off from there. From that little business promoting motivational speakers, I was the first person doing that in the UK. So we kind of created the self-help market over here, and it grew and it grew and grew.
Yeah. So I love that you just continued it and said that. And, as you were talking about, the fact that there's no help, you and I spoke about this in the green room as well, is that, as a mortgage lender back then, when I was doing this, my heart broke for everybody. And believe me, it broke for both sides, because there were situations where the husband didn't work because the woman was the main breadwinner and she wanted the divorce, and he's now, what do? I don't have any income. I don't have any this. So I'm always focused on the financial, was always focused on the financial aspect. And I think that attorneys are always focused on the legalities of things. And that's why, I would work with those attorneys. But you're right. They're making, people that are going through divorce and separation, they're making financial decisions based on their emotions. And I found that time and time again. So as a coach in this piece of it, and maybe I'm bringing up something new for you, maybe it's not new for you, but my question is, how do you guide them through making a decision that isn't emotional? For example, when someone has a loss of a spouse from, passing away, and they're a widow, everyone says, don't make any decisions for a year. Like, settle in, don't make any rash decisions, don't make any decisions for a year. How do you cope with that? Or how do you help people through that when they need to make decisions now? Because in your case, there was a baby on the way. You can't wait. Oh, I'm going to, wait for a year before we make decisions. We got to move fast. So how do you help people through that in your coaching?
It's a really good question and a great point, because you're right. Divorce is known as the second most traumatic life experience we go through after death of a loved one. So, and we follow the same grieving process, so it is really difficult time emotionally for people. It's like an emotional roller coaster. 1 minute you're up, next minute you're down, then you're down again, then you might get a small relief, and then you're back down again. So having to make decisions, lifelong, future impacting, serious, big decisions. Where are you going to live? How often are you going to see your own kids? How much money are you going to have to survive on? Do you fight this in court, or do you settle for something? What do you settle for? Is that fair? what are the long-term repercussions? Most people can't even get out of bed or decide what they're going to eat for breakfast when they're going through this kind of trauma. So again, it is really, really difficult making those financial decisions. Do I sell the house? Do I stay? Do I need to sell the house? All those questions that you were dealing with, absolutely. So, and the lawyers will strip out all the emotion from the divorce case. So they won't be helping you to process that because that's not their job. So what I do is and all the coaches that I train as well, we help people create a support system around them. First of all, it's about putting that oxygen mask on first for them. So it's self-care, looking after themselves and making sure they have a team of people around them who can support them and help them, whether that's friends, family, getting a good legal advisor, getting a good financial advisor, getting someone to advise them on the house or what's happening next, making sure they've got those experts. Anything that's worrying you going through a breakup, get an expert on your speed dial list so that if you have a question, you're not worrying about it, you can get the answer, because clarity will give you power and that will help dial down some of that stress. So that would be the first place we would start.
I love that you said sort of this 911, right? 911, have someone on speed dial that says, hey, I'm and listen, this is akin to us as coaches, right? We have our clients calling you. You're saying that. I mean, I do too. I have my clients, I have a 911 part, the GPS is saying, look, if you're walking into a speaking gig and, or into a meeting and you're saying, just give me a quarterbacking, give me some coaching real quick as I walk into here. Right. And I do that. And then I do that with my coach too. I'll call and say, I'm about ready to do this. And somebody looked at me crooked in the airport and now my head's not on straight before I walk on stage. Just give me a pump up, right? I love that you're saying that, because that's someone, that people going through a divorce need in their back pocket to be able to say, hey, I just was presented with, do I keep the house that has $700,000 of equity, or do I take his $1 million or her $1 million 401k? Which one do I do? Because emotionally, I want to keep the house for the kids, but there are consequences, financial consequences for doing that. And people don't realize that. But I love that they can call you and say, hey, just, make me even keel again, bring me back to earth, ground me, anchor me so I can make this decision. So I love that you're doing, I love that you're doing that. So one of the things that you talk about is how to spot some signs in a toxic relationship. So this is pre-divorce, right? This is, how do I not get blindsided? What are those signs that you want to share with someone who might be listening, who is doing the same thing as you? And listen, I've been married for 40 years, but there are days I don't like my husband, and there are days he doesn't like me. We love each other, but there are days that we don't like each other, right? So how do we know if that's toxic as opposed to, hey, we're human? There's good days and bad days.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question, because toxic relationships or abusive relationships are very different. It's healthy to have conflict in a relationship. It is, as long as you've got tools that you can resolve conflict in a way where there's resolution. In a healthy relationship, the key difference is that both parties want a fair resolution to scenarios. They don't want to hurt the other person. They want it to be okay. And in the end, everyone's okay. There's no going out to maliciously inflict pain, which of course is the premise of an abusive relationship, where, especially in a divorce process, there is no aiming towards a healthy, fair compromise. It is all about absolute annihilation and finding as many ways as possible to cause maximum suffering. And most people don't realize that after a divorce, quite often, and my lawyer said it to me, she said, Sara, now you're out, at least the toxicity, the abuse will stop and you can get on with your life. That is just such a misinformation. It doesn't work like that. Abusive relationships can massively escalate after the breakup, because you're pulling away from the abuser who wants to control you. So they need you in their life because they survive on that adulation and that control they have. So what happens is all that gaslighting, and these are the signs: gaslighting, lies, confusing behavior, isolating you from friends and family, cutting you off from other people, little comments that may sound like even dressed as a compliment. Like one of my clients the other day said her husband used to say things like, oh, you know what, it's so nice that you have the confidence to wear that dress, even though you are a little bit overweight, but it's great that you've got the confidence to just show your arms off even, I just, that's great, that's great. I'm proud of you. And in a way, that's kind of a compliment, I guess, that she was taking, but it's a backhanded, and it's not. So reducing your confidence a little, comments like that, unpredictable behavior. So you're walking on eggshells, always thinking through, if I say this, what are the consequences? Where's this going to lead me to? Not being free, not having a voice to voice your own opinions, and not being free to do the things you want to do, having to be accountable where you are, what you do. And abuse can be emotional and coercively controlling you. It can be physical, which is often a lot, obviously, more easy to spot, a black eye or a burn or a broken arm, and horrible things like that.
Right.
But then also it can be financial. So I have a lot of clients who are saying, sorry, I have to come in from work and show my husband all my receipts, what I've spent that day. And I'm saying husband, it can be both ways, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it can be sexual as well, doing things that you're not comfortable with. So again, there's a whole range of different things that would be abusive. I think when you're in those relationships, quite often we minimalize it and normalize it so that we don't really think about it. It's quite hard to get out of those relationships because often your confidence is low. And it takes something like them meeting somebody else quite often for people to get out of those relationships. Yeah. But again, you've got to be super careful and make sure that you are in touch with your local domestic abuse charity who can support you and safeguard you during those times. Because when you leave, that's when the danger can potentially increase. And in the UK and the US, it's about the same stats, I believe, that 30% of domestic homicides happen within 3 months of separation. And even in most of those cases, over 80%. Yeah. And over 80% of those cases, there was never any physical violence. So again, we just have to be really careful because that post-separation abuse then goes into the divorce process with the children, the finances, not sharing information, that lying, confusing behavior will just get channeled into the process of divorce, which makes it much more expensive, much more time consuming, and really emotionally draining as well. So again, there's lots of things that can impact in many ways.
This is so deep, and you're so brilliant at this. As I'm listening to you, I'm going, okay, are there signs here? Are there signs there? When my husband and I first got married, he came from a family. So his parents married and divorced, married each other 4 times, divorced each other 3 times. His mom was married 7 times, and his dad was married 5 times, right? And so he came this crazy relationship, which, if you want a story on that, you and I'll talk separately on that one. But I'm thinking, so where's that controlling? Because she always pulled him back into court, constantly pulled him back into court, and somehow got him wrapped around her finger, and he married her again. And my husband kept saying, what? The French toast? Why? Right. But when my husband came from out of that family, and we got married, when you talked about the receipts, I remember him giving me, I say, hey, can I have $20 this week or whatever? And he would say to me, I say, hey, I ran out of money. And he'd say, well, I gave you $20. Where'd it go? And I said, well, I don't know. I bought lunch. I got some gas. Okay, well, lunch, how much was lunch? Oh, $4.12. Okay, great. How much was gas? Right. And he started doing that to me. And I had come from my mom being a verbal abuser to me, and controlling me. And I went to Brian so that I didn't have that control. And then he started controlling me. And we had a big blow up early in our marriage, where I said, that's enough. You can't do that to me. I'm not going to be pushed down and whatever. And when you said that, it just took me way back 40 years ago when this happened. Right. Yeah. And I just think the depth of this is pretty amazing that you're talking about. I'm curious to know if you talk about you're a divorce coach, but could you be a divorce prevention coach? Do you coach people who are starting to walk down that line and saying, hey, I don't want to go to you when I'm getting a divorce, but I want to prevent the divorce? How many of your clients are like that?
It's a really good point because, there are a lot of people in that boat. And what I always say is, yes, we do get people coming saying, should I stay? Should I go? Or they threaten me that they're going to leave when the kids go off to university. I've got a client in that boat as well, coming up to the end of the school year and they're going to leave, and then they're empty nesters, you know, no kids at home, just staring at themselves across the breakfast table. And he said to her, look, I don't think I want to be with you after that. You know, and I get that, we do get that. But the interesting thing with what we do as breakup and divorce coaches is it's very niche. You know, there are a lot of people doing marriage counseling and therapy and relationship support. There aren't many of us doing breakup and divorce coaching, and we help people from all different,
Right.
different walks of breakup. It could be the first heartbreak, it could be a relationship with no kids that broke down, it could be real heartbreak, it could be a divorce, a marriage that's fizzled out over years, you know. So
Yeah.
and I train my coaches in this niche, and I say, look, guys, stay in our lane. You know, clearly for me, I'm no great at saving relationships. My marriage ended, so I'm very much stay in my lane that I'm good at. I know how to get through a breakup, I know how to get through a divorce, I know how to pick yourself back up, dust yourself back down, off I go. So, you know, integrity to me is key. So yes, some of the tools we use when you go through that personal development journey to rediscover who you are, what you enjoy doing, what, you know, to rediscover the kind of partner you might want to be with in the future. You know, those things are really important. Communication strategies, the way you resolve conflict, looking at your emotional coping mechanisms.
Right.
You know, are you a drinker? Are you a crier? You know, what is it that you do? Maybe you exercise, or, you know, something more healthy, but we all have coping mechanisms. So when you go on that journey, often you learn a lot about yourself that can help you in future relationships, or to even save your past relationship. But that's not really my focus with clients. What we do is we help people get through the breakup and come out the other side stronger and happier.
Okay, great. So let me ask you one of the last questions, which is how do you design, because I know this is something you work with, is how do you design your ideal partner? So now you've gone through the breakup, but I really think that what you're about ready to tell me is something that you could work on before a breakup too. But how do you design the ideal partner? You know, are you changing them? Are you, you know, going through a process and saying that, you know, I has to check off these boxes, and if they don't check off everything, then it's a no-go? How do you design an ideal partner?
Well, this is really key, because quite often my clients in the first session will come to me and they'll have two criteria for finding a new partner. The first one is they have a pulse, and then the second one is they show them a tiny sign of affection, and then they go into what I call limpet mode, where they sucker themselves to this poor person, because the biggest fear is being alone, right? Never being loved again and being on your own. So this is really normal, and a lot of us will go through that process. But if you want to find a partner with a chance of having a healthy relationship, that's not the way to do it. So we have a very easy, simple process where you look at not only what you want. Most of us are very good at what we want, right? We know, you know, tall, dark, handsome, short, blonde, blue eyes. We know the kind of personality traits we're looking for. What we're physically attracted to is important, but it's not all of what is important. Also, what do you need from a partner? And this is the bit where we get to learn the lessons from the past relationship, really look at what didn't work and why it didn't work, and bank those lessons. Because as we both know, Jen, don't we, that life will keep on teaching you the same lessons over and over again until you go, okay, I get it. I'm going to act on it. I'm going to learn that lesson and bank it.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of work on what you need as well. And that might be emotional stability. It might be loyalty. That suddenly shot to the top of my list after my divorce, that's for sure. You know, so certain things like your values and what's important to you will change in traumatic events. So it's reassessing where you are now, what you want and what you need. But then also looking at 5 must-not-haves. And these are absolute deal breakers. And that's really to protect people, especially those of us that are prone to toxic relationships. So these are things that you will not tolerate. If they show up at any point, you deploy your parachute and exit the building immediately. There's no, oh, when they get to know me, I could change them, or, oh, maybe they were having a bad day, or I'll ignore it for that. None of that. It's a deal breaker, you're out. So that's the process I take people through. And it gives them a safety net. So they know when they go back out dating, they can do it with confidence. If those signs show up, they'll be out. So it reduces the risk of them getting hurt. So yeah, that's how it works.
I love that too. You know, this has been so interesting, and I know it goes so much deeper, so much deeper than this, but what is the best, tell us the best way for people to get in touch with you. I know you have a free gift for everybody. Your giveaway is a free e-copy of your best-selling book, The Split. Who should be getting this book? somebody who's going through a divorce, someone who has, hey, look, I might be in a bad toxic relationship or things aren't looking good. Maybe I need to get this now. Who are the best people that should be reaching out and getting this book and maybe getting it for someone else?
Yeah, absolutely. So the split is designed, it's a 30-day guide to get you from breakup to breakthrough. So it's really for people who are going through that breakup and really want a bit of a plan, a bit of a structure. What do I do? What will make me feel better? How do I dial down these negative emotions? And how do I get a team around me to help me do that? So that book will help you through that for sure. Yeah. So you can, I will give you the link to download that. And also you can find me on my website, which is saradavison.com. Or my Instagram, I put all my daily tips and videos up there. So if you are looking for a bit of help or you wanted to train to become a coach with me as well, we have a training school training people to do that, then you can come to my Instagram, Sara Davison Divorce Coach.
Great. Beautiful. And we have the link for the book, so we'll put that in the show notes here. What would you like to leave us with, Sara?
I just want to say that, whatever you're going through, it's not what happens to you in life that defines you. It's what you do about it that makes you the person you are. And I'm a big believer that, sometimes adversity can be your greatest gift, and you can turn it around and turn that pain into your superpower. So if anyone is going through a tough time, no matter what it is, ask for help, because, obviously, Jen, you have so much help and support you offer. There are so many people out there that can help you. So find the relevant expert and get the help, and you can do this. You can go on and be even happier than before.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, as a mortgage lender, I wish I knew you then, because I would have just offered your services to everybody. To everybody I would give those services to. So I can't wait to share this with my coaching clients so that they can reach out to you and learn about it as well. So thank you so much for spending time with us today. It was great getting to know you. And please don't forget to get me a few little gifts for this coronation.
I will. I'll get you the King's coronation gifts.
I can't wait. Maybe I'll get a little crown. Yeah, it's been great getting. It's been great getting to know you, and thank you so much for what you're doing in the world. And I look forward to seeing you. I'm going to be back over in England soon, so I know we're going to run into each other again. Thank you, Sara, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jen. I really enjoyed it.
You've been listening to Success to Significance with Jen Duplessis, the #1 podcast for people wanting to give more value and make an impact. Loved this episode? Be sure to subscribe right now at www.jenduplessis.com/S2S for more stories, strategies, and thoughts to help you gain significance and success. And if you like what we're doing, don't forget to give us a rating and review so we can continue to bring you the best content possible. Join us next week for another breakthrough episode. Thank you for listening.